welcome to another kind of bit of a vloggy style video. Whilst I have been in the UK, I have had the pleasure of attending many different book events with some of my very favourite authors, hosted by some of my favourite bookshops and publishers. I already shared a few of those moments with you in previous videos, which I will link up here and down here, but this is going to be a wrap up of the events that I've been to during my last couple of weeks in the UK. So yeah, I am going to share those with you now, and I hope you enjoy. In the description box below, I have put the timings for where each author starts, so you can skip to the part that you are looking for. The first event I went to was the Chorleywood Bookshop event for Ruth Jones' novel Never Greener.
Such a warm welcome. I'm delighted to be here tonight to talk to Ruth about her debut novel Never Greener, which debuted last week after 3-day sales in the Sunday Times bestseller list at number 7. And we just don't do any clues yet, because we just heard today that in this week's Sunday Times top 10 she is number 1.
It's just I can't quite take it in actually. I'm still absorbing the information, but you know, it's down to brilliant booksellers that this has happened, because we've been touring around all week, going to loads of events that have been sponsored by independent bookshops like Chorleywood tonight, and so I'm really grateful to them. We've sold a lot of books, and so yeah, it's been very much a team effort. It's been fantastic.
You've been zooming all over the country.
Yeah, we've been started off in Larne in West Wales, and we've been up to Liverpool and Manchester, and down to Monmouth and Chepstow, and then back up again up north, and we've just been all over Oswestry. Swansea. Yes, we were in Swansea. That was interesting. I said to the team, I said, now we are in Wales. There'll be a lot of oohing and ahhing. And I did have to say to one lady, it's not a pantomime there. To which she replied, oh yes it
is. So you have obviously launched lots of very successful TV shows. Has it felt different launching a book which is just yours with your name on it?
Yeah, it's been a very different experience, I guess. The whole journey has been very different. I suppose writing for screen is more collaborative because it has to be. So obviously Gavin Stacey was co-written with James Corden, and Stella was co-created with my husband Eddie Pete, and then you kind of have to have lots of meetings with people en route. So it's more collaborative early on, I guess. With the novel, I had to obviously write it on my own, and I did have my lovely editor Frankie Gray and my agent Johnny Geller, and I could talk to them at any time, but I kept saying, oh look, I've written 10 chapters now, can I send them to you? No, finish the book. And I was like, I've got halfway now, can I send it to you? Nope, finish the book. And it was good advice, because I think I don't know, it felt a little bit like running a marathon. Not that I've ever run one, but I felt like it was good to just keep going and get to the end, and then start looking at sort of shifting things around a bit.
And so Never Greener, it is a novel about regret and second chances. Can you tell us a little bit about the story?
Sure. It starts in 1985, and it is, we meet Kate, who has an affair with a married man, and has 2 kids, one on the way, and the affair ends quite messily, and they go their separate ways. And then in 2002, 17 years later, Kate's now a famous and successful actress, and she goes back to her old school in Edinburgh for like a kind of VIP visit, and she bumps into the guy that she had the affair with. And what they both should really have done is said, Oh, hi, yeah, I remember you. A bit awkward this, isn't it? Anyway, nice to see you, bye. And, but they didn't do that. They didn't do that. And so the result was a bit of a mess, really. So that's what it's about. It started life, actually, as a screenplay. About 15 years ago. I hadn't written, it was long before Gavin and Stacey, and before I'd really written anything for screen. And I just, in sort of 2002, 2003, for the young people in the room, there was a time, and that was it, when there wasn't social media. Facebook didn't exist, and Twitter didn't exist, and or if they did, certainly Facebook hadn't taken off in the same way that it did in 2004. So what people were getting quite into was Friends Reunited. There's always this murmur when I mention Friends Reunited. And it was quite exciting. I mean, I went on it, loads of people I know went on it, because it was a way of getting in touch with old friends, people that you were in school with, that you had lost touch with over the years, and rekindling old flames. And I was hearing all these stories about people who, maybe had been in long-term relationships for 10, 15 years, had kids, and then got back in touch with little Johnny Smith that they went out with in Form 5. And so there were stories of people getting together with these old flames, and on some occasions it worked. I mean, during the book signings this week, a couple of people have come up to me and said, I got together with my ex on Friends Reunited, and we're still together. But for a lot of people it didn't work. And so I was just interested in that idea of what happens if you get a second chance at a relationship, and that's essentially what this is about. So I'd written a screenplay, nobody was particularly interested in it, I forgot about it, and then a couple of years ago, I went off for a little break, and I was looking through my laptop for some inspiration from old ideas, and I found it, and just really as an exercise, a sort of labour of love, I started converting it into prose fiction, and I loved it. I was in a spa hotel, and I'd go off and have a massage, and I couldn't wait to get back to start writing again. And I really fell in love with the characters, and I wanted to spend time with them, and I wanted to know what was going to happen to them. So that's how it came about, really.
And I mean, it is very much a book, it's a warts and all portrayal of relationships, isn't it? Is that what you wanted to do with this novel? You wanted to get inside the messiness of relationships?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and I think hopefully I sort of look at this in stuff I've written for screen as well. I like characters that are fallible, and because in real life, nobody is perfect, and sometimes we're sold this idea that there are people who are perfect, or that there's a perfect Christmas day, or a perfect figure, or a perfect face, and all this stuff, and it just doesn't exist. And so I'm quite interested in that kind of idea of people being messy and relationships being messy, and there's humour in it as well. There's humour in the mess we make as human beings, I guess.
But I mean, you just touched on sort of being interested in fallible characters. I mean, Kate is a very complicated character. Can you just tell us a little bit about her?
Yeah, she's not very likeable at all. I mean, you can't honestly like her. She's she's ambitious and driven and successful. She's Machiavellian, and she's very manipulative, and she knows what she wants, and she will do anything to get it. And so she is difficult to like. However, as the novel progresses, you start to feel that you can understand, even if you don't like her, you can understand why she is like she is. And hopefully by the end of the novel, you come away thinking, all right, okay, yeah, I see where she was coming from. And although she is these, I suppose, has these negative aspects to her personality, she's also incredibly vulnerable as well. And I sort of felt sorry for her, I guess. I felt sorry for her.
And actually, you do bring the vulnerability in quite early because, as you say, she's very successful and she's very famous. And there's a scene quite early on where she's in a cab with a cab driver and she just wants a bit of peace and a bit of time to herself, but he wants her to be chatty Kate Andrews, and she knows that if she doesn't, then he will kind of slack off to people sort of down the path. And that for me with Kate, there was a real sense that there's a kind of double-edged sword to fame and that she's quite ambivalent about it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I have seen what it's like, I've experienced to an extent what it's like to be in the public eye. I mean, not to the extent that some people have. Some people, how they deal with it, I do not know. But it is like you said, it's a bit of a double-edged sword. I mean, you are in a lose-lose situation if you're in the public eye, whether you're an actor or a school teacher or a politician. If you're in the public eye, if you want your own space and you want some privacy, and that means saying no to somebody, saying no, I can't give you my attention right now, you're going to annoy them. They're going to be annoyed and think, oh, well, you're a miserable old cow. Or the only other option is for you to give up your privacy and give up your time. So I was trying to explore that with Kate a little bit. She knows very much how to play the game and what's expected of her, and she knows that her public persona is really important, and she has to keep in the good books of her public, I guess. We started to get feedback from people, and it was almost like they were going, I really like that Gavin and Stacey. It's really different, isn't it? It's really unusual, and it was like this drip effect. And then by the end, I think we got the second series was commissioned before the first series even finished going out, and we won a BAFTA for the show. James won a BAFTA as well for his performance. So it just exploded. It exploded, and we had no idea, because when I think back to writing that very first episode, we wrote it in 24 hours, because we wrote it in 3 8-hour sessions. And I remember we were in a hotel room in West London, and we just were reading out loud, because that's how we used to write it. We used to sort of improvise the scenes and then write them and then sort of finesse them a bit. And I remember we were absolutely crying with laughter reading Uncle Bryn's speech about the rape alarm. And we both said, you know what, if nobody else likes this series, it doesn't matter, because we've really enjoyed writing it. So, and I think you always have to enjoy what you're doing in order to communicate that joyfulness to your audience, actually.
And you have had, I mean, as I said at the beginning, you've had an impressively eclectic career. You have acted in many different things, you've written, produced. What has been your one highlight to date?
Oh my goodness.
I know, that's a
Well, I guess, obviously, we've been really blessed with incredible people, and I've had such good laughs, actually, on the way. Stella was a joyous journey, it really was. I think because it was such a gentle and innocent time, when I think back to Gavin and Stacey, so the process, forgive me if I'm telling you stuff you already know, but I didn't know this at the time. You can get a script commissioned, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to go on the telly. So the BBC commissioned Gavin and Stacey, we wrote it, and then we had to wait for what's called the green light. We had to be given the green light, and once the green light was given to us, then we knew that it was going to be made on telly. So James had gone off to do the History Boys. He was touring the world in the History Boys, and I had the news, and I had to wait until he landed in New Zealand before I could call him. And I just always remember calling him, and he was like, I just got off the plane, and I went, oh, Smithy. We got a green light. For characters that make mistakes and to forgive. I think a bit of forgiveness in the world goes a long way. So I think, yeah, I think it's an interesting journey, hopefully, for readers, and I would like people to go, yeah, okay, well, we all make mistakes, but let's move on.
And also, I mean, I think sort of to be kind to people when they do make mistakes as well.
The next event I went to was an event in Waterstones, Liverpool 1, to celebrate the launch of You Me Everything by Catherine Isaac.
You will know you as Jane Costello, but now
Catherine Isaac, yes.
Please explain, so long as it's not like a dodgy story.
No, there's no dodgy stories involved in this.
You're not on the run.
So no. So basically, I'd written books for 10 years as Jane Costello, and the simple reason, the short answer is really that this book is completely different from anything that I've written before. It's a bit more. I suppose it's a bit more serious, but I don't want you to think it's a miserable book. It's, there's still humour in it, but it deals with some issues that are a lot bigger and were a lot more difficult to tackle than anything that I'd done previously. And because of that, my amazing agent, Sheila, suggested that it needed a new name because she had ambitions for it that went outside the UK, which is where I predominantly sold books previously. And as a result of that, Catherine Isaac is who I became. Catherine is my middle name, Isaac is my son's name. And I'm still kind of getting used to it, myself, to be honest.
I was going to say, so if I'd actually said Catherine, you'd have been like...
No, it's been a while now, so I am definitely there, but there were a few book events I went to at first when, people would call me Catherine, and I was kind of looked at them blankly, and but it's all good now, yeah.
So, you mentioned that one of the reasons for the name change is because it's a slight shift away from perhaps what people will have been familiar with before.
Yeah.
So therefore, please tell us a little bit about the book.
Okay, so the book
Don't give anything, but
there's no spoilers,
away.
Because I'm aware that most people won't have read it. The book is all set in the Dordogne in France, which is part of the world I absolutely love, so it was a real joy to be able to write about it. And it's there that my main protagonist, Jess, goes to spend a summer with her 10-year-old son and his father, from whom she's been estranged for the last 10 years. And really, spending 6 weeks with her ex is the last thing she wants to do. But the reason she's been brought to this point is that her mum, Susan, who she's very close to, is by now in a nursing home and is kind of in the late stages of a completely debilitating disease that really has had a catastrophic effect, not just on Susan herself, but has had this ripple effect that's gone through the whole family. And Susan has said to her daughter, William needs some sort of relationship with his father. This is important. You've got to sort this out. And because of that, she persuades Jess to go and take William to France, where his father lives in this beautiful he's running this beautiful hotel called Chateau de Roussillon. And she kind of makes it her mission to make father fall in love with the son again. And it's a love story, but it's not a conventional love story. It's been described as a love story in the widest definition of the term, because it looks at love between a mother and daughter, between a father and a son, and lost love, romantic love, and it's got the lot. So yeah.
Well, can I ask, because as somebody who's never written a book and is never really likely to write one, I am the one journalist who really knows that they haven't got a book in them. But do you start, when you start and you've got nothing written, do you have an ending already?
Yes, yes, always. Everyone does, I mean, when you meet lots of authors in this job, obviously, and you find that everybody's got their own way of doing it.
Yeah.
Some people are clever enough to be able to sit down in front of a computer with just the grain of an idea and to see where that takes them. Stephen King, for example, doesn't plot out any of his books, and I'm completely in awe of that, but I can't do it.
No.
So I like to plot out in quite a lot of detail, what the ending is, but
Yeah.
also the ebbs and flows in the middle. And that way, that feeling when you've got 100,000 unwritten words in front of you
Yeah.
is quite daunting. And so I don't like to even go there before I've got a very clear idea of where I'm going. It does change as once you've done draft one, you
you know where
lots
you're
of
headed.
idea. I know where I'm headed, yeah. Got to know where I'm headed.
In terms of the characters, do you, in the way that scriptwriters for Corrie or whoever will sit and create a little biography for characters,
Yeah.
so in their minds they know a backstory.
Yeah.
So if we were talking about Jess,
Yeah.
and I said to you, well, what's she like at school? So even though it's never touched upon in
Yeah.
the book, would you be able to answer questions about main characters, because in your head you've imagined the life that they've had outside of what they
Yeah.
do in the book?
I think, before I start writing a book, I do come up with a little short biog, but it's only as you are actually writing the book that you begin to learn about your characters. It's like making a friend, learning about their, it comes out in the whole process.
Yeah.
So that by the time you've finished draft one, you absolutely would be able to answer any question like that in your own head.
I'm not going to
completely clear. No, don't give me a quiz.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could do that, definitely.
And again, another thing that has always interested me, and which we've discussed before, because I think I visualise a character when I read a book. And I've asked you, do you visualise? And I'll ask you now because I can't. I think you lie. do you visualise a character when you write it? Because I can't imagine how you can write somebody in such depth and not have a picture of them in your head. But
No,
you don't,
because
do you?
you're certainly, particularly with the main character, you're not thinking necessarily, or certainly not automatically, you're not thinking about how they look, because you're thinking about how they're thinking. So, you might think of the odd nuance, like, I don't know, she wishes she had a flatter belly or something like this, but in fine detail, I don't actually picture them. So that's why when the inevitable question, and I'm betting it's on your list,
it's on
who
there.
would you cast in your film? Oh, right.
I'm going to come to it later.
Oh, okay, right. I always find it so sorry. I beg your pardon, but no, it's not a visual thing, but it's more about imagining their personality, I suppose, about the way they think, more than the way they think and how they would act in a certain situation, rather than necessarily whether they've got blue eyes and.
It's a happy accident that the hero is quite handsome then.
Well, yes, that was that. Yeah, okay, admittedly.
And just spend a little bit of time with your shirt on.
Oh, Dawn.
You won't.
Really. You had to point that out.
I appreciate that you won't visualise that at any point. But never.
Yeah, okay. Well, maybe there's the odd occasion where
Yeah. Now, I mean, I know you mentioned that there's different relationships in the book. What was the relationship that you liked writing most? Was it the romantic one? Was it the one? Because I said to you, I felt the relationship between Jess and William, her son, reminded me very much of you and Otis, who's going to kill me.
He won't appreciate that at all. He's cringing in the corner.
He's not read the book, and
he doesn't fancy it apparently. But there you go.
There's one sail down, isn't it?
Snubbed. But there you go.
You could have had a free one.
No, it's I very much enjoyed writing the relationship between Jess and her son, simply because it's not based on my children.
No.
But I did, obviously when you are a mum, you know about the kind of things that kids say,
Yeah.
and
And the way they behave.
Yeah, exactly, and I really did thoroughly enjoy that, and actually I think some of the feedback I've had from people is that they enjoyed that part of it as well.
Yeah, but obviously central to the storyline is Jess and Adam,
Yeah.
who is her lost love,
Yes.
who she's reunited with.
Well, that's a spoiler.
No, reunited with as in goes over to
Yes.
over to see him. Oh, that remains to be seen. Well, they won't they? But no, the idea is that she goes over to see him
Yes.
to rebuild
Yeah,
the
yeah.
relationship. So she meets him again
Yes.
after a lengthy
Yeah.
time away.
In my case, I write a first draft really, as quickly as possible to keep the momentum going. So I'll try and kind of write 2,500 words a day and get a
Also,
first
Costa
draft.
hate you sitting there
They
for such a long time, don't they? So you have to write it quickly before they kick you out.
They do. But yeah, so I'll write that quite quickly, but by the time I'm onto a second draft, and it's that first time you read through your first draft, if you get to the ending and it hasn't kind of choked you up a bit,
Yeah.
I think something's missing. So yeah, I don't think you laugh at your own jokes.
No, that'd be
I'll
bad.
reassure you with that.
But you cry your own emotions.
Yeah, I think so.
That's all right then.
There's a film option, so I mean, I try to keep.
Tell us about the film.
Okay, well, there's a film option, obviously. When I heard about this, I tried to keep my expectations as low as possible because I have heard that unless, you've got the actors on set and
Yeah.
the director there and all the rest of it. So I genuinely, although this film option deal has taken place and that was all extremely exciting, I kind of try and, keep my expectations. But then lots of exciting things keep happening.
Yeah.
So there is a script. It's Lionsgate and Temple Hill who are the people who made Twilight and The Fault in Our Stars, and so they're known and they take pride in taking books that people who love
Yeah.
and turning them into movies that people love, because we all know there's absolutely nothing worse than watching a movie version of a book you've loved and it's been completely awful. So yes, we got emails from them yesterday, so things seem to be happening. But I won't be until I've got my dress and I'm on the red carpet.
Have you? Did you Google what is in Oscar's goodie bag?
No, but I'll let you know.
Okay. We're not getting it. So then, I'm going to ask. So then, when you told us, there's a film option for the book, and we were all very mature about it and said, get the guy from Poldark. And you said, oh no, it's not. Come on, get them. So in your head, even though you'd obviously not visualised Adam ever, obviously, just nuances, maybe. Who was it?
So
Is it going to be the guy from Poldark?
So Dawn, because we know each other, has asked me this question many times. Not
Every
just
time?
Every time I think, yes, exactly. And I always give what is deemed to be a completely unsatisfactory answer, which is I find it too difficult, to run. But I did, because I knew you would. I just knew you would ask me this question. So I
thought of nothing
So I
else.
thought I'd do some research.
Okay.
That was a tough afternoon's work. So no, I did think actually that the guy who I've forgotten his name, but the guy who plays Jon Snow in Game of Thrones, Kit Harington.
Okay.
Now he'd be good, wouldn't he? We'd have him. Yeah, he'd be excellent. So
Okay.
I didn't get as far as the
That's
woman.
that is a genuine surprise, but that passes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So there you go.
Any money for Jess?
No, I haven't got that
Are you
far.
going to insist on playing Jess yourself? Now you've chosen Kit Harington. Also, I mean, obviously, there's an option on the book. An option on the film.
Yes.
And at the risk of sounding like somebody who says to somebody in the labour ward, "Are you going to have another child yet?" There's another book, isn't there?
There is.
Are you
another
able
book,
to
yes.
talk about what comes?
Well,
Can we talk about what comes next?
Well,
because there is
what I
what
will-
comes next, isn't there?
yes. What I will say is this whole experience of writing under the new name
Yeah.
and has been so rewarding, and I'm sitting here talking about movie stars, so
Yeah.
it's been such a great I enjoyed writing it, even though it was more challenging than anything I'd ever written before. The whole experience has been incredibly rewarding, and so there will be more Catherine Isaac books, I will say that.
Yeah.
And yes, And the next one is also set in a beautiful location, but that's all
You're
I'll
doing
say
this
at
on
the moment.
purpose though, aren't you?
These research
Is
trips
this because you get to, I was going to say, is this because you get to launch the books wherever they're set? Is that what it is?
There was a research trip to Italy for the next one. Yeah.
That's good. That's amazing.
The next event I went to with these lovely blogger friends of mine was an event hosted by Fabulous magazine featuring B.A. Paris, Adele Park, Sarah Pinborough and C.L. Taylor, interviewed by Claire from Fabulous magazine. A thriller evening.
This is B.A. Paris. Her debut book, Behind Closed Doors, was the best-selling debut novel of 2016 and sold a massive 850,000 copies, and that means Girl on the Train in ebook. 2017's Breakdown was also a New York Times top 10 bestseller, and Bernadette's new novel Bring Me Back, which was published in March, and is another massive hit, keeping readers guessing from start to finish. So welcome, Bernadette. And then we have Adele. Adele Cox is the author of 17 books and has sold millions of copies of her novels over the last 17 years. Each one hitting the top 10 bestseller list, which is no mean feat. Known for her romantic as well as historical fiction, she's one of the country's most successful authors. Her most recent book, The Image of You, follows her previous novel, Stranger in My Home, in being a darker domestic read, and its sexy, twisty-turny story had me gripped from the start. So welcome, Adele. Sarah Pinborough's Behind Her Eyes was a hardback and paperback Sunday Times #1. Anyone who's read it will know that WTF, that ending, nicely sums up that feeling when you get to the novel's unguessable and brilliant twist. Sarah is the author of more than 20 novels for adults
I'm
and
so
teens.
the newbie in the success ratings on this panel. 25 books, this one did really well.
And also she has her new book, Cross the Heart, published in the 17th of May, which is also going to do really well.
It's amazing.
And it's just as, if not more, breathtaking and tightly plotted, so you're all in for a massive treat. And then, welcome Sarah. And then, definitely not least, we have C.L. Taylor. She has sold over 1 million copies of her psychological thrillers in the UK. Her books have been translated into more than 20 languages and optioned for TV. Callie has also turned her hand to young adult books, publishing The Treatment last October. She writes edge-of-your-seat, heart-pounding plots, and her most recent novel, The Fear, was published 6 weeks ago to brilliant reviews. So welcome, Callie.
Of my book, I know the opening scene and I know the end scene, but whether I don't actually think about a twist. So I think that I don't actually, set out to kind of trick the author and think I must have a twist in this book. I think it just happens as you write, and it does for me anyway. And for example, in Bring Me Back, yes, I suppose it is a twist at the end, although some people do guess. So, it's very difficult to say, but I don't actually, think I've got to have a big twist at the end of my book. It just kind of happens.
For me, when I read reviews of that book, I do not mind when people hate it, because thriller writers who are purists, thriller readers who are purists, may not like that ending, But what bothers me is when they say she tagged that ending on, because I think, no. That ending was there on page 1, page 2, all the clues are there. But for me, I think twist is an overused word in thriller writing at the moment, and it feels like there's no twist, it's not a good book. Whereas actually, we were talking about, as we said in the green room, a series of reveals where the reader is kind of just a half step behind the author. It's like, oh my God, yes, oh my God. The reveals can be as interesting. But for me, I start with the ending. I have to have the ending. Whether it's a twist or whether it's just a solid view of where that book is going. I have to have that before I start. And I'm halfway between the pantsers and the planners. I have my ending, I have my beginning, I have a few beats in the middle, and then the rest kind of weaves as it goes, which I think is pretty normal.
Yeah. I've a couple of times I've really outlined the book before I started, because I saw the James Patterson masterclass.
But he doesn't write them anymore.
Well, I know.
He just hands the outline over and goes, oh, pop at
But I
that.
figured he's so rich and he's so successful. I'm going to watch his masterclass and see if there's anything I can learn. So he was like, you know, sort of saying you should have a very detailed outline before you start.
Before you hand it over.
because then it makes it so much quicker to write. So when I wrote The Escape, I actually had a 13,000 word outline before I wrote the words. No, I didn't. But I felt as though I'd written the book when I'd written 13,000 words because it had all of the story in it, but just in a very condensed way. So when I wrote what came after the Escape, The Fear, I didn't have time to do an outline that time, and that time I just used the 4-act structure with 8 sequence climaxes, and I literally just had a page of bullet points, and that was all I had. And I felt really nervous about starting to write because I sort of knew sort of like road marks along the way, but I didn't know quite how I was going to get to them. And actually it made writing it a lot more enjoyable. And the twist that is at the end of The Fear, I didn't know.
Because when I said to you, I love this bit, when I read it ages ago, and I was like, I love this bit, and you were like, wasn't in my original plan.
No, it absolutely wasn't, because normally when I write my books, I just have a reveal at the end.
Yeah.
I don't think of myself as a twist writing author. It's just, who is the bad guy, or who is behind this, that, or the other, that's revealed, book ends, sort of thing. But then with The Fear, I was in the shower, 85,000 words in, and I just thought, oh, I could just have this at the end. And I wasn't sure if it was a good idea or not, so I ran it past my editor, and she was like, yes, it's a good idea. So then I went back and just
You seeded it, didn't you?
I did. I had to seed in like a bit of the groundwork to make it work. And with the one that I'm writing at the moment, Sleep, which is my next book out in January, I'm not sure what that final twist is going to be. I've got a couple in my head, but I couldn't abandon them.
I couldn't write without.
I know how it ends, but there could be an extra.
Weirdo.
So I don't know. But I don't want anybody to expect that my book is always going to have a final twist at the end.
I think the twist is overrated now. I think people like every blurb you read, and I actually read a book recently that's coming out next year, and it was really brilliant. And this is a terrible cone of silence.
Don't tweet this.
She says to other people. And I said to my agent, I absolutely love this book, but I'm not quite sure how to blurb it. So can you send me like a rough blurb and I'll play with it? And so my agent was like, she'd read it, so she was like, yeah, brilliant. So American agent, so she sent me the blurb. And it said something it kept me until the final twist. And I was like, no, there's no twist at the end. To the final pages, fine, but don't sell this as a twist because people will be looking at it. This is a brilliant book. It's satisfying as a thriller. It pays off in every page as a thriller. I loved every moment of it. The minute you write amazing twist at the end, people are looking for a twist. If there's no twist, readers aren't stupid. They're actually going to judge the book because some other person said there was a twist. You know, so I'm kind of
looking for it.
Yeah, I think twists are very few and far between, but reveals can be perfect.
Differently knowing there's going to be
Yeah,
and you look out for it.
But it doesn't mean that a book without a twist is less of a thriller because slow reveals can be equally as satisfying. It's a great twist at the end. It's a different.
Do you think I write in genres? I think I write books about people, and the overwhelming thing in any one of my novels is it is about a character with a dilemma, and they might be set in World War I, or they might have swapped their child by accident, careless, or they might be, yeah, and actually the romance thing, even the very early books, they were never ever straightforward romances. I always had the relationships that, my very first book, they were already married and it was about it going wrong. That's not actually that romantic.
And I do think it's very much, and again, shut your ears, HarperCollins. It's very much a marketing thing because I think most writers write about there is a character, they're placed in a position they don't want to be in, stuff happens that it has to be resolved.
But it's useful.
It's a dilemma, regardless of genre.
Dilemma.
Yeah, dilemma.
That's what I
All
love
books,
writing.
dilemma books, because they're either dilemma books or they're literary fiction where nothing happens but people think about doing stuff for a lot of time. So I think, I agree. I think it's very hard to place. Now I would not put your books, I wouldn't put your books in cover art. I just wouldn't. I think there's more art.
Nobody can laugh.
Yeah, Jen saying funny
simple as that.
But you can, because I always think with my books, people say, oh, you've written, so I've written fantasy, horror, sci-fi, crime, thriller, this, that. But to me, they all have a puzzle at the heart. And so what's important to me is a puzzle and a journey. I want people to start the book thinking they're not quite sure where they're going. And then at the end, there's been a completed journey, mystery.
My background was marketing before I became a novelist, so I'm all for marketing. And I don't have a problem at all that you have to go into a genre, because I think it helps people make very fast decisions. I mean, when you're making a decision of which book to write, that helps you make that decision. But I always think back, do you remember when, I don't know if it happened when you were a kid, but when I was a kid, on a Monday morning after the weekend, the teacher always got you to write the news, which was basically they were really, really nebby and wanted to know if your family had argued that weekend. So that was fine. And then on the Thursday afternoon, the other time you did English, I said this, my sister's a teacher, she always says, you're horrible. But on a Thursday, they gave you a different story to write each time. You might have to write You're in Space, you might have to write a fake Aesop fable, you might have to write a mother-son story. And I enjoyed that challenge, and I think that's what I enjoy now, which is why I move around in genres. Although I haven't got any intention of moving around at the moment.
See, I wrote a trilogy once, and the first book of the trilogy, Matter of Blood, went in crime. The second book of the trilogy, Shadow of the Soul, went in fantasy. The third book of the trilogy, Chose the Seed, went in sci-fi. So the three books were in completely different
Which in the bookshop?
In the bookstores were completely, which I think came down to the publisher's problem.
Right.
Because when I went to watch this, I was like, out my life, because my books were in different places. But yeah, so you know, I think it's a very, genres are very divisive line.
What did you think they were?
Well, to me, they were stories. They were crime. I mean, they were crime, but they were definitely crime with huge sci-fi fantasy. But the first one was very crime.
You need a Venn diagram for yours, don't you?
Yeah, I've learned. Like I was like, okay, like Behind Your Eyes was a thriller with Venables a little bit. The next one is a thriller with straight
It's kind of becoming wider and wider.
Yeah.
I remember when before I was published, I wrote other books that I tried to get published before behind closed doors, and I would get, you write very well, but this isn't right for the market at the moment. So one day I said to an agent, what's right for the market at the moment? And they said psychological thrillers. And I said, I will never ever write a psychological thriller. And everybody said, oh, it's psychological. For me it wasn't, it was just a book.
That was exactly
just a book.
I thought it was very fantasy. And then another psychological thriller. And I was like, and I looked at like, what's selling in fantasy, what's selling in psychological thriller, and I was like, yes, this is.
I am probably the strong spot then, because I try and write within the conventions of whatever genre I'm writing. I like to do it by the rules. So when I wrote romantic comedies, I watched loads and loads of romantic comedy films, I read lots of romantic comedy books, and I studied what it was that made a romantic comedy, and then I put a supernatural spin on it, because I didn't want it to be, well, the first one anyway, I didn't want it to be a straight romantic comedy. I wanted it to be sort of otherworldly and stuff. So I kind of meshed the two together.
And they say that that's really clever, because you have to know the rules before you can break the rules.
Yeah, exactly. And well, no, possibly as a debut, I didn't though. I don't think I did break the rules. If I were to write a romantic comedy now, I would be much braver than I was with the two that I wrote, because probably my understanding of sort of writing and literature as a whole is bigger now.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this vlog style video of the book events I was lucky enough to go to whilst I was in the UK. I wrote up a couple more of them on my blog, so that is linked below. And now it is time for me to fly home. So the next video you will see from me will be from my normal filming space. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and remember to subscribe. Let me know in the comments below what book events you've been to and what kind of book events you enjoy. I would love to have a discussion there with you, and I will leave you with the sights of London from the sky. Thanks for watching.